Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Office of the Leader of the Opposition press conference for March 9, 2023. Welcome all. Today with me on this press conference, in studio with me to my right is none other than Mr. Darren Adams, who is the Regional Chairman of Region Number 10. Joining us in our virtual setting today is as well Mr. George Nicholson, who is the regional party official of Region Number 9. Also with him is Mr. Carl Parker, who is a former REO of Region Number 9. Welcome. All right, so today's press statement will be read by Mr. Darren Adams, and we will have that now. Is that up?
Guyanese all, good day to you. The PPP government does not believe in local democracy. They utilize and facilitate the Region 10 REO, violating the laws of Guyana and refusing to implement the decision of the elected Regional Democratic Council and serve the people of Region 10. We condemn this approach and call on the errant Minister of Regional Development and the REO to bring an end to this sad state of affair. As the elected representatives of the people, you are aware that 18 of us were elected to lead the Regional Democratic Council of Region 10, Upper Demerara, Berbice. We agree with Mr. Vincent Alexander, a former regional executive officer, who is eminently qualified in local government, that, and I quote, regional democratic councils are statutory bodies or legal bodies made up of the council proper and an administrative arm, established in keeping with the provisions of Article 72 of the Constitution and enabled by the Local Democratic Organs Act, which specifically states, local democratic organs shall be a body corporate by the name prescribed for it by its constitution order. In the execution of its function, the council has an administration which is responsible to the council for the execution of its lawful decisions in the manner that the council so resolves. While we are very proud of the sterling work carried out by most of our staff in challenging circumstances, some seem bent on serving partisan political interests and stymieing the work of this council by playing politics with our people's welfare. This is compounded by the stark reality that this government refuses to address their safety, health, and basic humanity by refusing to complete the new building which we initiated, since the one we presently occupied is derelict, dangerous, and a public health disaster waiting to happen. We have adopted an approach of keeping our residents abreast of all of the actions taken by the PPP to demonstrate that they are using our tax dollars to dominate and oppress our people. Their recent decision taken to foil our well worked out and agreed to plans for the 2023 March celebration is the latest manifestation of the PPP attempts to dominate and control Region 10. In this statement, we wish to be clear on 4 points. 1. The Regional Democratic Council of Region 10 is the highest decision-making forum in the region, and all of the officers of its administrative arm, including the Regional Executive Officer, are obligated by law to implement the lawful instructions of the Council. The RDC will continue to call out and condemn the use of the RDC staff to carry out PPP political work while on duty as an untenable and unacceptable development that must be sanctioned and brought to an end. The Regional Executive Officer must publicly and definitively acknowledge his accountability to the Regional Democratic Council of Region Number 10. The Ministry of Local Government is also compelled to respect the laws of Guyana. Unfortunately, they are in violation of the law, and while we cannot compel the Ministry of Local Government to do so as well, I would think that it is in the interest of proper governance that they join in buttressing this position so that the REO could properly discharge the functions in keeping with the law. The RDC will continue to engage any organization, ministry, company, or individual who will partner with us to achieve beneficial developmental growth for Region 10 and our constituents. Even though the government vindictively increased Region 10 budget only by $80,000, and I refer here to the line item that speaks to national and other events, while increasing the PPP-controlled regions by millions, our council voted to instruct the administration not to go to Georgetown to celebrate Mashramani, but to reserve our tax dollars to ensure that we can fund MASH celebrations in Linden. In direct contravention to this lawful instruction, the deputy REO took a contingent to Georgetown for Mashramani. We were then told that they intended to wash these rain-soaked and already worn costumes and issue them to revelers in Linden, along with some others left over from 2022. This is disrespectful to the people of Region 10 and a blatant disregard for the decisions of the RDC. You might wonder how the Deputy Regional Executive Officer came to disregard the legitimate decision of the elected council at its February statutory meeting. This is but one more instance where officers of the RDC are instructed to disregard the council and respond to instructions from elsewhere, often acting as staff of the Ministry of Local Government and some other ministries rather than as staff of the RDC Region 10. It should be noted that our council wrote the president himself to point out that some of his ministers refused to respond to correspondence from the council. Unfortunately, even the president failed to acknowledge receipt of our correspondence. This attitude has apparently permeated the public service and made its way down the ranks to our administrative personnel. In an example of how comfortable our public servants have become in violating the laws of Guyana by overstepping their roles, the Regional Executive Officer Dwight John had been bold enough to approach the council through me to arrange that the Mayor of Linden and the Member of Parliament be excluded from speaking roles at the 2022 and 2023 flag-raising ceremonies. This we could not oblige. How this falls within his remit, we cannot understand. And the justifiable rebuffing of his attempts to censor these two public officials was met with a stance of ignoring the lawful instructions given to him by the council. The council was already braced for this, since our decision to host flag raising at Aichuni and Kokwani in 2022 was met with the same withholding of payments, etc., by the Regional Executive Officer. We therefore sought to protect this approach by ensuring that these decisions were resolved at the highest decision-making forum at our disposal, the statutory meetings of council. However, the Regional Executive Officer wrote to the regional chairman indicating that he would not be present the next day at the March statutory meeting of the council because he had been called to a meeting at the office of the president. He also delivered a letter on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, to the office of the regional chairman before he left for Georgetown, part of which said, and I quote, "As such, as the accounting officer, I am required to comply with the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, where the money is appropriated by the National Assembly on the 801 Regional Administration and Finance Chart of Account 6291, National and Other Events, are insufficient to execute the Linden Regional Mashramani Celebration 2023. Currently, I would not be responsible for any unauthorized expenditure since it will be in contradiction with prudent financial management and my accounting responsibilities." Simply put, the REO heads the Regional Procurement and Tender Administration, and after spending out our constituents' tax money on Mashramani in Georgetown against the direct instructions of the RDC, he now disrespectfully says that there is no money left for MASH in Linden and Kokwani. This is an affront to the people of Region 10. He also said clearly that he will not be responsible for any payments for MASH in Linden and Kokwani, which he refers to as unauthorized expenditures. It should be noted that it is the REO who is in violation of the law. The council had written to, met, and agreed with the commander of the Guyana Police Force, Division 10, the traffic ranks, the fire, members of the public, other stakeholders to be able to parade for Mashramani on Sunday, March 5th, 2023, from the Five Corner Junction to the Bay Rock Community Center parking lot. At this location, which is well drained and has wide open space convenient to hosting of this activity, it would have permitted numerous vendors who usually set up tents and vending carts to take advantage of this opportunity to earn an income in this region in which unemployment is above the national average. The government sought to impose a decision that these activities be held at Christiansburg ground. This was rejected since Bay Rock offered the opportunity that would have been lost at Christiansburg, and because of the hasty setup, only certain sympathizers of the PPP would have gotten the opportunity to earn. Just 2 weeks before, the Regional Education Department held the children costumes competition at Christiansburg and was forced to abandon the second day due to in no small measure to the swampy conditions of the ground. This call for a change of route for the Mashramani parade in Linden was therefore a truly spurious and divisive measure that was aimed at sabotaging Linden Mashramani 2023. Indeed, the state media happily carried 2 separate advertisements publicizing 2 different destinations for MASH parade, therefore substantiating the view that the intention was to sabotage Linden Mashramani celebrations. On the day of the parade, we observed what has become an established pattern of behavior, where employees of the RDC Region 10 are used to do political work on duty and to create mischief when an officer of the administration was seen twice trying to change the flow of the parade on the Mackenzie shore before becoming involved in a direct confrontation with myself, the vice chairman, and several members of parliament while attempting to divert one of our trucks to the bogus MASH destination. Having been prevented from achieving the PPP nefarious objective, the officer then drove away with all of the meals for the revelers, leaving us to scramble to secure something for these persons to eat and drink after representing the RDC in the Lone MASH Band. We say the Lone MASH Band not tritely, but to point out that no ministry of the government sought to participate in Mashramani in Linden, the birthplace of the festival, choosing to instead send Lindeners to participate in the Berbice Mashramani activities. This is discriminatory and unacceptable. The confusion created over the destination of MASH in Linden also ensured that corporate entities chose to stand down. However, this 9th Council of the Regional Democratic Council of Region 10 has pledged that even if it is only like-minded Lindeners and the council who participate, Mashramani in Linden will live on. We are left to close out our Mashramani 2023 celebrations at Kokwani this weekend with the MASH parade on March 12th. We will pay keen attention to the REO's stance on providing resources for the execution of this event, in keeping with the resolution of the RDC Region 10 at its February statutory meeting. I thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this time, we will have a statement coming from Region 9. I, you may go ahead, Mr. Nicholson.
Hey, good morning. Morning, and good morning to listeners all. I want to thank you for this opportunity, for giving a chance to let the world know what would have taken place in Latham on the 2nd of March, and early morning of 2nd March. We would have received a call, I would have received a call at approximately 12:30 a.m. that our office here in Latham is being demolished. I arrived at the location approximately 10 minutes to 1 to discover scene. Due to the low lighting, all I had to do was take some pictures, and I returned home to notify Stevie person of our party of what was taking place. I subsequently notified our local group members of what was taking place. I returned to the location to observe. About 2 o'clock, Comrade Carl Parker, a card-bearing member of our party, arrived to join me in observing what was going on. In the interest of securing our party documents and so forth, we went into the building, and what we would have discovered were truly shocking. Very, very shocking. All the documents in our secure location was removed. The ceiling was ripped down. The windows were broken. There were 3 individuals on the premises still continuing the work of destroying the building. We tried to inquire what was going on. We advised them to stop, but they continued. We were then asked to leave, to exit the building and exit the location by a police officer to comply. And I identified myself as the PNCR chairperson, and I was told that I'm not allowed to enter the building. At daybreak, the true reality of the damage was revealed. The true reality of the damage was revealed. What is most important here, what is most important is that no information was sent to us as to inform us that any action would be taken. And also, what we find very strange is that the time of the day that the act would have been taking place. But let me move away from the fact that the building was destroyed. I want to send this message out. This is not just about reclaiming a building. This is about removing the identity of the PNC from this region. And I'm sure this initiative is not just to this region. I believe this is a national agenda. The PNC building on its current location serves as a beacon of hope that the PPP is actively trying to remove from the minds of people here in Region 9. Because of its location, if you attend the post office, you will see this building. If you come to GCOM to do a transaction, you will see this building. If you're going to the police station, you will see this building. That does not serve the PPP's agenda, because the PPP agenda is to go into the far-flung areas and inform people that the PNC is dead. There is no hope for the PNC. So this goes against their claim, because when people come out from the far-flung areas, or indigenous brothers and sisters come out from the far-flung areas to do transactions, maybe the RDC, the post office, the police station, GCOM, or even the hospital, the building is there with its flag flying high. It served not just as a symbol, but a beacon of hope for good governance. But I want to reassure people that the people of Latham will stand strong. That would have been demonstrated clearly. I know Comrade Parker is here, and he will get into what was done to him, and our fellow Comrade Dr. Williams. But I want to reassure people that we will stand our ground. We will not allow anyone to bully us. We believe that that building is ours. The RDC is under the impression that that building belongs to them. In a country with constitution and democracy, which is being preached by the PPP, we believe that there is a place to resolve those issues, and that is the courts. So to come in the middle of the night, like thieves, to do what they did, does not go with the flow of democracy. But let me say this. The claim is that that building is to be reserved for a health center. But from that location to the main hospital in Lethem, 5 minutes of brisk walk, you could reach to the Lethem Hospital. So the idea that this building is to be used for an health center does not fit. It is more than that. The objective is to remove any symbol or hope for a person who are looking for something that they want to under the treatment of the PPP, under the current treatment of the PPP. And let me also tell you some of the things that we lost. All our documents were removed, our hard drives were removed, clothing that was sent to be distributed to needy persons in the region from our Canadian chapter were removed. We don't know their current location. Books that were sent, we discovered them in the garbage bin, in the garbage dump, some of which may have been burned. And it goes to show that the person that was sent there to do that, the level of mindset that they have to be burning books, something which could be used to develop the next generation, they determine that the best interest is to burn them. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate this. This is not just about reclaiming a building to use. This is about removing the identity of a political party. With that I say, thank you for your support, for the support that has been coming in, and we look forward to your continued support. We will keep the fight here on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Parker will now give a chronicle of what would have transpired yesterday. Mr. Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I first want to thank all our comrades, both in the region and for the field, for their solidarity with us here in Lethem Region 9. Yesterday morning at approximately 4 minutes to 9, a police vehicle pulled up at my premises, which is 8 miles out of Lethem. I went to the gate and I spoke with the police officer who I identified as the same officer that was supervising the destruction of our building. I identified the officer as the same officer who our attorney, Mr. Darren Whale, and I, when we went to the station, was taking a statement from the regional executive officer who had gone there to make a counter report. And I told him that I had just not too long awoke and I have some chores, some mandatory chores that I have to complete before I leave my premises, and that I will drive to the station when I'm completed. He asked that I reach there before 10 o'clock, which I promised him I'll do. However, I was not able to reach there at 10. I reached there just at about 10:15 yesterday morning. And immediately I was informed that I was under arrest. And the charges put to me were 1, damage to property belonging to D.L. Kennedy, the contractor, who was allegedly contracted by the region to demolish the building. And those materials that were stated were a quantity of young boards, 4 packs of zinc nails, a padlock, a chain, and a fence, which amounted to $176,760. I was also accused of threatening Mr. Kennedy, and they asked me if I had anything to say. I did inform the rank that I reserve the right to remain silent and to keep my defense for when the matter will be called in the courts. While there, I was placed on the bench. Well, before going to the station, I stopped at the party office and I was calling for Mr. Williams. I did not get any response from him. I called around a few members and they said they did not see Mr. Williams. But I assumed that probably he was asleep, but I know he was up all night. When I arrived at the station, I did see Mr. Williams there, and he informed me that he was arrested. He was tricked into coming out of the compound, and as soon as he left the compound, he was arrested. And we were charged jointly. At the police station, the police attempted to deny us our rights that I was for, and I told them right now, I'm not a common criminal, I'm a political prisoner. And as such, I have certain rights. They wanted to take away my cell phone. I told them that they can't have my phones because my phones have sensitive information in it, and I don't want those phones to get into the wrong hands. They did not pursue them, that matter for it. However, we were arraigned after 3 hours in the police station, and they processed us. We were arraigned before Magistrate Wilson, where the charges were read to us, and we were allowed to plead. And we both pleaded not guilty. Interesting to note, the prosecutor informed the magistrate that he could not proceed with the matter because the file had not returned from the DPP. And that begs the question, how come we were charged if the DPP did not advise, because the file was still with the DPP? And it is logical to assume that instructions were passed. However, on leaving the court, we gave a statement which was eventually circulated on social media. And I want to assure and inform all our listeners and supporters that we will be resolute. We will not be bullied. We will not be intimidated. The fight continues, and we are not afraid of the PPP. Back in the 80s and 90s, the PPP probably would have succeeded in their agenda. But now with the advent of social media, where information is shared instantly, the PPP is afraid to execute that agenda openly. So they are using the police, they are using the courts to intimidate people into giving up their rights. And I want to call on all Guyanese, both in the room and abroad, and for the field. Do not be cowed. Do not give up your rights. Your rights are guaranteed by the Constitution of this country. So once again, I want to thank all of our supporters, those who would have empathized with us, those who would have stand with us, and who would have encouraged us. Their support has lent invaluable strength and courage to us here in the room. And I want to thank the RIP leadership as well for standing with us and providing the support necessary. But most importantly, I want to thank Mr. Darren Wade, Attorney at Law, who showed courage, who showed fearlessness in confronting this latest abuse of power on behalf of the PPP. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parker. At this time, I would just like to inform you that we do have Mr. Darren Wade, Attorney at Law, joining our press conference. And I also believe virtually we have the former regional chairman of Region 10, Mr. Sharma Solomon. All right. At this time, I will open the floor for questions from the media in regard to the statements made here today. As is customary, you do so by the raise of hand.
morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
One question for Mr. Parker and one question for Mr. Nicholson. The question for Mr. Parker is, what was the reaction of the magistrate when the prosecutor said he was not proceeding with the matter any further? And I'm sorry you got some background noise, but that's from the outside. I ain't got control over that.
Adam, respectfully,
the question for Mr. Nicholson, the question for Mr. Nicholson is that he said that building has been a landmark and that there was no signal of an intention to demolish it. Mr. Nicholson, what was the reaction of the police to the demolition? Did you approach them to ask them on what pretext were they demolishing the building?
Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Adam, I wouldn't allow, respectfully, as counsel for Mr. Carl Parker, I wouldn't allow him to answer your first question. I don't think it's appropriate. The matter is currently before the courts. If so, more or less, I may address it, but I will. Since the question that you asked Mr. Nicholson may not be one of a legal matter, so Mr. Nicholson could probably answer, but certainly I don't think it's wise for Mr. Parker to answer that question.
Okay.
I'm so guided by turn.
Mr. Nicholson, your mic is muted.
Okay.
You were saying.
When I arrived there in the morning, I observed the vehicle was parked. I could not have identified what vehicle it was because the light was in my face. But I subsequently learned that that was a police vehicle. We were asked to exit the location by a police officer, of which we complied. The police officer I didn't ask any question as to the demolition of the building because it was clear to me that the police was fully aware of what was transpiring because he was present. I did not ask him that question of what was the reason for the demolition. But I did identify myself, and I was told that I cannot enter the building, the compound, of which I complied.
Thank you.
And to Adam's questions in relation to what transpired in court. What transpired yesterday and the disclosure of the prosecutor is nothing strange in the courts of Guyana. And to the legal mind and what we are experiencing on a daily basis. The prosecutor informed the court that the file is incomplete and is currently with the DPP. And as a result of that, a date for report was set in the matter. I trust that answers your question, Adam.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can live with that.
All right. Thank you. I see the hand of Mr. Antonio Day.
Good morning, sir. I have a question for I noticed that the Apple AFC is seeking compensation for losses among those that the claims transaction report. Would this pose a delay for the upcoming local government elections, which is ready for June 12?
It's kind of difficult to hear you, sir. I believe the environment or your device is more or less breaking up. So to follow your question is very difficult.
Mr. Day, you need to speak a little louder for us, please. We were getting a feedback just now.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, but it's a bit muzzled.
Okay, all right. Let me repeat what I was saying.
Yes.
The applicant seeks compensation for losses among those that the claims and objections report. Would this pose a delay for the party since the local government election is on the current way?
Mr. Wade, you'll answer that?
As in Mr. Nicholson is responding to the question.
Mr. Nicholson, the mic is muted. Go ahead.
As it relates to the claims and objection report, we would have finished all work on the said report, and it was stored at our secure location at the building. But what we have done, we would have had electronic copies. Fortunately for us, we would have had electronic copies. We would have lost our computer system that this report was prepared on, our backup drive system. We would have lost that also, but we had information on flash drives. So by 12 o'clock the following day, we were in possession of all our report and ready to be submitted, at which we did. On time.
Thank you.
And please don't forget to mention your news agency.
Okay, yes. And that was channel 67, Mr. D. All right, any other questions?
So I would like to, this is Dennis Shabbar from the Wara News. In relation to the situation in Region 10 and one may want to add Region 4, Mr. Adams, you talked about the legality of some of these actions or the absence of legality. My question to you is why aren't these matters being challenged to the court?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Shabral. What I can say to you is that we are currently pursuing same, and that we'll be engaging our attorneys to prepare the necessary document to pursue court action.
Have you got a time frame?
Well, the work is in progress at the moment.
This is not the first time you have had these instances. Why has it taken you so long?
Well, over the past 2 years, we at the regional level, we were trying to ensure that the council, which is the highest decision-making body in the region, that things were dealt with at the regional level, that we possibly sought out a compromise. But clearly, the intervention by central government and its attempt to railway the democratic principles of local organs is something that has reached the tipping point. And so at this stage, we have decided that enough is enough. When one seeks to railroad their way, imagine in the context that Mashramani started in Linden. And here you have a REO taking instructions from central government that the activities and the service providers should not be paid for those activities that were had. And so I think as elected officials and as representatives of the people, it has met a point where when you attack and you have your, whatever it is that you're being instructed to do, when it is interfering with the people who we were elected to serve, then, it becomes something that should be dealt with at another level. And that is why we're going to pursue those options.
In a nutshell, can you say what would be the legal basis for your court case?
The Constitution speaks to the point that the REO carries out lawful directives of the council. We have never given the REO or clerk of council any unlawful directives. What we have found over the past 3 years, for example, let me give you a case in point. How can you justify that an elected official should not be given the opportunity to speak at a national observance? A mayor, you're in the town of Linden and you received instructions that the mayor should not speak or that members of parliament should not speak. How do you justify that the commemoration committee, who would have been meeting for the past 3 years, planning all of our activities, met, recorded and shared their ideas. Other stakeholders were a part. They met with the police, the traffic representative, the fire representative, and they outlined a route. And service providers, persons who design our costumes, for example, would have submitted, and you would have agreed, and the REO would have signed off on a budget for Mashramani at Linden, and then now turns back and say that he will not be approving any of the payments for those service providers. And so, you know, I believe we have a lot of justification, and I'm sure our lawyers will have enough evidence to win a case in the court very easily.
And you're saying all of these decisions were documented
Of course,
in minutes?
of course, all of these decisions were documented in the statutory minutes. And the REO signature, he signed on to the budget, and so we have the evidence.
Go ahead,
May
Mr.
I ask, sorry, may I ask a question, Mr. Nicholson, Mr. Parker? Now, and perhaps Attorney Lane, you went back to Lebanon. You entered the premises where the police told you you couldn't enter and you had to leave and all of this. You started to rehabilitate what was demolished. Has there been any intervention to prevent you? Has there been any suggestion that you were trespassing? And has there been any attempt to enforce your eviction?
I mean, that's a question of facts and law, so I more or less am going to address it. The question of re-entering, I must let me make it clear: we did not re-enter the premises. We have never given up possession of the premises. The government, or rather the RDC, as the vice president stated, entered the premises unlawfully. I'm adding unlawfully. They removed the zinc sheets unlawfully. But in relation to possession of the premises, we have never given up. We believe that we are in our right. We enter the premises, we had our meeting as per usual. The party prayer was said as per usual. So in relation to possession, we were always in possession of the premises. At no point we had given up possession. And the issue of trespass is a legal issue, and trespass is against the person in possession. The party has been in possession of the premises for approximately 50 years or about. I don't know if that's...
Sorry.
No, I was wondering if that satisfied your answer. Your question.
Well, I heard you. I heard you. But it brings into contention the fact that you, as you say, the legal occupiers, were actually evicted by the police. Mr. Nicholson said when he went in, he was told that he couldn't remain there, he had to go out. In short, the legal possessors were denied entry into the building. In short, they were evicted, sir. Isn't that in contradiction to what your subsequent action stated? Well,
as I said, the issue of possession is a legal question. The police actions were unwarranted. The police actions are unlawful. The law proscribed against those type of actions that was done by the police. May I also state that whilst we were there having our meeting and so on, several police came. There was a battalion of policemen who came to us, and they asked us, they requested to enter the premises. They said, sir, can we enter the premises? And we said, certainly, you can.
All right. And one other question. This is for Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker, I saw a video with someone throwing water on you in the presence of the police. And I think you reported that action to the police. Was any action taken?
No action was taken, sir. the contractor, Dale Kennedy, while I was videoing the proceedings, had a bottle of iced water and threw some on me. My skin was wet. I went to the police with my condition and I made a report to the police. He took the report. Shortly after that, and that's also captured in video, Mr. Dale Kennedy walked from the PNCR office to the police station, interacted with the very officer that I had made a report to, and then walked back to the PNCR office. There it is, the police had an opportunity to put the allegation to Mr. Kennedy and either caution him, hold him, charge him, whatever, but nothing was done. And it seemed as though the police was in cohorts with the whosoever passed the instructions to demolish our long-standing office.
Then may I say that this is a clear dereliction of duty by the agents and servants of the Guyana Police Force. May I also add that a report was made for trespass, which is also a criminal offense, and the destruction of our property, and also the issue of larceny and so forth. The police, whilst they may have asked us to submit statements, whereby we're currently in the process of putting together because of all of documenting everything that is missing. As was noted prior in the court, the police said that the file is not completed. Similarly, in this case, they could have arrested the gentleman in relation to the assault to Mr. Parker, which they failed to do. They could have taken a statement from Mr. Parker in relation to that allegation. They would have also failed to conduct that. In addition to that, the issues in relation to the trespass and so on, they could have also done a confrontation, an investigation, and so forth. The police has basically done nothing. I recall when I was there on Saturday in Letem, after these guys, we made a second report for trespass again. When they left the building, the contractor and team, they went over to the police vehicle that was parked there. Mr. Ali, the 2IC officer, was in the vehicle with another rank. They took the paint and so forth over there, and there was clearly discussions with him. So the top brass of the Guyana police force quite clearly is complicit, because here is it, a criminal activity transpired in your presence, in your view, and you did nothing. I noticed also a press release from the Guyana Police Force stating, based upon reports, that they were unlawful entry or unlawful possession or something of the sort by the PNC in relation to that building. Let me say this: why did it take so long? Why did it take almost 50 years for you to receive information when, in fact, you are the next door neighbor to the PNC? The police is the next door neighbor to the PNC in Letem. The two living quarters are immediately next to the immediate neighbors, and then there is a police station. So they have the living quarters, the female living quarters, that is. Then you have the police station. So it takes you 50 years to be in possession of that information. It quite clear about that is that the police is receiving political instructions how to carry out their duties, and they have failed to do so. They're nothing but unprofessional in this matter.
Thank you.
I have a question to Mr. Parker and Mr. Nicholson.
1 second, Mr. Chabral. Mr. Chabral.
Yes.
One moment. Before you go, Mr. Antonio Day's hand was up for quite a while.
Oh, my God.
Go ahead, Mr. Day.
Okay, good morning again. I'm Antonio Day from Lightning. A question directed to Mr. Parker. I may ask, would the police Did they demonstrate any form of hostility when arresting you?
No. They came to my home, which I said before was 8 miles out of Lytham, and they informed me that they would need me at the station to complete a report I would have made the day before. But I was already in possession of information that they were going to arrest me. So I was prepared. So there was no hostility. When I went into the station, the guy put me to sit on the chair, and then he informed me very respectfully that I've been arrested, and he pointed out why, and then he prepared a statement in my presence and in the presence of Inspector Alfred. And Inspector Alfred was there to ensure and to witness that there was no abuse by the police. However, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if they did not demonstrate any hostility towards you, why the sections of the media saying that you were trying to oppose them? I'm a bit curious.
I didn't get the first part of your remarks, sir. Sorry. Hello?
Hello?
I did not get the first part of your remarks. Sorry.
Okay, let me repeat. I was saying, so if they did not demonstrate any sign of hostility, then why in certain sections of the media saying that you would oppose them? I'm just a bit curious about that.
No, I haven't seen those reports in that section of the media. I don't know what you're alluding to, but the police throughout the years here, I'm in the Rupununi toward 2 years, almost toward 3 years now, and I've always had a very good relationship with the police. In fact, when I was REO, 3 buildings that the police are now occupying were given to them by me with approval or with concurrence of the Regional Democratic Council, because those buildings were not being occupied, and instead of having them locked up and deteriorate, the police were in need of accommodation, and I gave them, after discussing with the regional chairman, we agreed that the police should occupy those buildings. I want to point out too, on Valentine's Day 2017, a policeman was stabbed, his intestines were protruding. There was no doctor around, no porter. I was RO then, and I worked as a porter in getting him from the vehicle onto a trolley into the hospital. I went and woke up 2 doctors, and they were able to save his life. You know, so I've always had amicable relationships with the police. In the 90s, the police were part of the Lytham cricket team, and we went all over this region playing cricket. So I've never demonstrated hostility or antagonism towards the police. In fact, I always encouraged them, and I would stop them on the road and congratulate them for the work they're doing in the region. And anybody who said that I was hostile towards the police, obviously, has been very economical with the truth.
All right.
Ready?
Yes, you may, Mr. Chabral.
Thank you. Yes, so either Mr. Nicholson or to Mr. Parker, or perhaps a perspective from both of them will be helpful. Could you say why, for more than 40 years, the parties never sought to acquire a lease or a tenant support for the building?
No.
On my part, there's not.
No.
I guess you have to direct that to the party executive.
You know, Mr. Mr. Chabral, but don't you think,
Go ahead, attorney.
Mr. Chabral, The issue here to be determined is one of trespass. Why didn't the state, if they're claiming that it's their property, why didn't they go through the legal process of what is required by law? The issue here has nothing to do with title, Mr. Trubral, nothing whatsoever. The issue here is clearly an unlawful action by the state of Guyana, or rather unlawful actions by the state of Guyana. I believe there is where the issue lies. It has nothing to do with title, why it didn't apply for it. It has nothing to do with ownership. You have action with the state powers at play. That is the issue, Mr. Trubral. That is a legal issue. The illegal issue at hand has nothing to do with title. Nothing whatsoever.
But why do you conclude that, Mr. Wade, when indeed it is the issue of ownership that has formed the basis for the state to take the action that you described as trespass?
But the issue of ownership, as I mentioned, if the state needs possession, then and they claim that they own it, then they need to go to the courts. And if the court finds that the state is the rightful owner of it, the court will grant them an order showing that. You follow? You just don't turn up at night using Venezuelans, knowing very well that Guyana has issues in the international court with Venezuela, and try to dispossess someone. The law proscribes against that action. If you need possession of a premises, you go to the court and you seek an order. That's my understanding of the law. And matter of fact, sir, matter of fact, and this is general I'm speaking here, I'm speaking general here. The CCJ has ruled that whereby anyone, Darren Wade, you yourself is in possession of a premises, once you have satisfied the law, once you have extinguished the person's rights to that premises, title is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? As we're coming sharply down to the close of our press conference, I will take the question from Mr. Adam Harris, then Mr. Day. I possibly believe those may be our last two questions. Mr. Harris.
Yes. A question before Region 10 Chairman, Mr. Adams. Sir, I listened to you talking about the RU operating as though he is in charge of the region. He took office in, was it 2021, sir?
2020.
2020. And so for nearly 3 years this has been going on. Why was there no reaction, sir, from the RDC to this attitude?
Well, first of all, Mr. Harris, let me correct you. I don't think the RU is in charge of the region. What the RU is doing is using his office to withhold resources from the region, a most unfortunate position. We, over the past 3 years, have been using the media. This is not the first press conference that I would have done here. We have engaged the international community. We're in this sharing information with them as to the conduct of the official and his attempt to not allow RDCs and even those in Georgetown who are dictating through the RU, telling, taking control and trying to make it appear that they are going to hold the people at ransom simply because they have to affix their signatures to payment. You saw what happened in Region 4, for example. where the REO would have pulled a microphone out of the hands of the regional chairman. We in Linden, of course, with the people on our side, we continue to stand our ground. But where things will get complicated is where he will use his office and the authority in terms of approving or not approving to put a stranglehold. It's a clear case of domination and control, as I would have indicated earlier.
All right. I will take the next question from Mr. Day, Antonio Day.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Allen. Anthony from Nigeria. I just wanted to do a quick follow-up. I could remember back in January you spoke on the former state of the administrative building in Cyprus. I saw recently ago the building in Cyprus, the Toronto state.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're referring to the administrative building that was started under the APNU AFC. In the 2021 and 2022, and even in the 2023 budget, a justification was given for the need for a new RDC building. We wrote to the subject minister indicating that in the case of the 2023 budget, that the only capital project that would be submitted for 2023 was the admin building for it to be placed back into the budget. They unilaterally went ahead, they took it out of the budget, and so while it was a rollover project from 2020, they would have instructed that it be removed. Now, the same staff in the admin departments that make up the RDC are forced to work in, you know, the most inhumane, under the most inhumane conditions, feces backing up, water seeping into the stores department, damaging several documents that are procured to be distributed to schools and so on. And one has to ask the question, how does any caring government treat the people who are in their direct employ in this manner and, you know, believe that persons will in some way gravitate or support them? Now, you saw attempts again, getting back to the MASH celebration, where the state media, was used to send out disinformation. Activities that were planned since the 6th by the commemoration committee was placed on NCN. And despite them receiving a correspondence or despite them receiving information that this is the official route as was endorsed by the police, they went out again to utilize the media, the state media, to send out this information that this Mashramani was going to Christiansburg. Well, the people of Region 10 would have sent a strong message to the PPP in the lead up to local government elections, that the majority of people stood their ground and they went to the original site, the Beira Community Center, and as is reflective of their current state in the region, because of discrimination across the various sectors, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in housing, whether it's in public works, in contracts, over 70% of the contracts going to people outside of the region, the failure to activate the Linden Enterprise Network so that small businesses can once again benefit from loans and grants like occurred under the APNU AFC. Whether it is the failure of the call center and many of the young people who are used for a PR stunt, now, you know, walking away because the head of Go Invest went on NCN and lied that persons are receiving close to 100,000 there, when persons are actually taking home 15,000. Whether it's the failure to institute a board at the Linden Hospital Complex, that today we have close to just over 100 nurses who have already left for the UK. And doctors are resigning from the institution because of the failure of the government to put a board in place so that a CEO acting does not continue to make unilateral decisions. the people of Region 10 are documenting, and they are making a comparison as to what occurred then as to what is happening now. The jobs that were created then and the jobs that are being taken away now from the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service, where over 184 were employed. It continues that we will continue to push for the admin building to be at Spikeland, for them to allocate resources, yes, so that we can have access and that our people can have access to us so that we can deliver to them the needed services in a most comfortable environment.
Thank you.
Sir, did you get to address this issue with the president? Because I know you were doing recently. So did you get to tell him about Global State?
Well, if I did what?
Address the issues with the president.
So let me just say this to you, as I would have indicated. We have written several letters to ministers, to the president. When the ministers refused to answer, we took it to no other person than the president. We have never received a response from any of the correspondence that were sent out to these officials. So I guess that answers the question. The government is not engaging the Regional Democratic Council through the correct channels. It's a clear case of domination and control. We will have our way, and we don't care what you say. If we say the Mashramani got to go to Christiansburg, we're not going to worry about what your committee decided. We are going to Christiansburg. And that is why you found that only 2 persons were in the compound there at Christiansburg. Unfortunately, they would have lost an opportunity to provide or to make money at the Bayrock. And we will continue to hold firm. We will not take directives from Central as to who speak at any of our events. We will unite together and send a strong message that at all of our national observances, that the elected officials in the region will be given an opportunity to speak, whether it is at Mashramani, whether it is at independence or emancipation. What we are going to continue to expose is the withholding of the resources from service providers after they would have completed. Right now, the guy that provided the sound system and the music, the truck for the route that was taken, has not been paid in advance. We wanted to ensure that at the end of the Mashramani celebration, we had a live concert where all of the talented persons in Linden, and even some who we would have invited, were going to be able to do a show for the people at Bayrock. The REO received the instructions to withhold the advance payment for the band, and that is why that never materialized. It's a clear, sad situation that we're dealing with in Region 10, but we will continue to, of course, represent our people and educate and at the same time agitate and inform the international community at every opportunity we get as to what is happening in the Upper Demerara Berbice region.
Thank you. All right. At this time, if there are no other questions, I want to thank our media personnel and the persons who are looking at us on our social media platforms. I just want to thank you for joining us today on this press conference, and we hope that you do have a wonderful afternoon.